Welcome back, everyone, to The Creative Moment, Season 6, Episode 2. Your hosts, as always, Dante Bullhauer, Jamie Bullhauer, the father and son duo, both creatives in their own right. His on the writing side, poetry, books, that whole thing. I'm on the digital media side, photos, just basically pressing different buttons on a camera. So, let's dive right into it. We're going double duty today before pickup basketball. So, and kind of leads to our topic today. We are talking about ageism.
Well, no, not quite
Not ageism,
ageism. More like
evolutionism. How your age and kind of the environment that you grow up in, the creative environment that you grow up in, how it affects vision, creativity, just kind of the differences between those two. So, I don't want to date you. I am younger than him by about 30 years, about. I am in my 20s. That's all we'll say there.
Oh, no. I'm 104.
He's older than Google.
Yeah. Yeah. Older than YouTube.
So, obviously, older than a lot of things. You grew up before all the digital... we've talked about this before, but you couldn't put your poems, your daily poems on Twitter. It was a lot harder to share your work. I don't know necessarily how much harder it was to create it. You have a story about writing a poem on the back of a cigarette box, right? While working.
That was in college. That was in college.
So, obviously, I would say it is way easier now to create than it was back then. Or was it?
No. I don't think it's easier to create. It's easier to have people experience your creativity. Because I brought a box, when we visited last summer and stuff. And there was I wrote a poem in 7th grade that the Douglas Budget printed in their editorial, like in their letters from the readers and stuff like that. So the avenues of different places to publish or to get people to read your stuff was way different, way limited.
Yeah. So way back then, if I was in that time, I would have had to use a film camera, which have one right there. It would be a lot harder to start up your own photography business back then, partially because we've kind of commodified it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But also because there really wasn't that many. There's not photography has kind of jumped to the forefront a little bit, in the sense that it's more of a necessary luxury. I'd say you can have a wedding with no photographer, but you're not. It's a necessary luxury. You don't need it, but you're going to have it. Senior photos, you don't need senior photos. 98% of seniors get them, right? And so it would be a lot harder to start that business up 20 years ago than it is now for me.
So that in part of I'm not sure. It's actually when you think about how age affects things and what you can do and opportunities and stuff. There is so much actually to this, and why? Because I thought we could talk also a little bit pros and cons of the age that we're at in our what and stuff. But part of it stems from a little bit of that interview with Chuck D, and where. Because he's 64. I think he's 64. And if you don't know who Chuck D is, he's the head of Public Enemy. He does he has a few solo, but mostly it's Public Enemy. But and this is part of it. Right now he's into art and political statements and doing documentary and stuff. And so at 64, technically he's doing more creatively than he did when he broke the scene with Public Enemy and stuff but yeah, he talked about in that interview, I see how different generations and stuff, if you're, he got that line, you're a 40-year-old, you don't care about the youth unless it's your own kid. You care about your generation, and it just got me really thinking that both the environments that you get to be young in, but also the benefits of being young as a creative, but also the hurdles. The hurdles, but also a lot of benefits. And looking at the negative, I think, can actually help spark better growth. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, along with the idea of, of other components of our society and stuff, because we do have a youth culture. Like, sorry, we have a youth culture. Everything. Yeah,
that was part of his answer was, you don't care about anybody over 70 unless it's your people.
Yeah, your people, your grandma or something. Like, you don't, like, the music industry, and it's interesting component. So let's start with the negative. What are some of the hurdles about being young, being a young creative at the moment?
I'll walk the fence of that. Kind of a pro and a con. I would say you are much more allowed. You are given a lot more freedom to make mistakes, to mess up, to put out bad work, just to grow and learn, I guess. You're still seen as, okay, this mistake was not because he was careless, even if it is, it's because he's still up and coming or whatever. I have, it hasn't really happened this last year, but a couple years ago, my first full summer of doing seniors, a lot of moms would say, I just wanted to work with an up and coming photographer, which they like, it was a positive thing, but it felt like they were like, oh, I'm not really sure what to expect. And then obviously, I don't do bad work, so I don't ever do it. Well, anyway, but you're allowed to mess up, but at the same time, in today's society, everybody is just, once you get to a certain bracket, everyone's just waiting for you to screw up and waiting to tear you down. Specifically on social media, and we've touched on that quite a bit, but it's definitely a positive, given that leeway. You feel like you can expand into, okay, what if I want to try film photography? What if I want to try this new this new design layout or what?
And I think that is a part of the youth cult, like the up and coming, like you have different ideas, or just because you're young, your mind is more.
Exactly. They're like, oh, you're young. I'm like, what's good in the industry has been good. Like the compositions, the techniques, those have been set in stone for years.
And we've talked about that too. Like the foundation is there.
Right. I'm not coming up with any wow, look, I centered it. Like, wow, no, old heads don't do that. But
you just said old heads.
Well,
oh man.
I feel like it's maybe more what they are trying to articulate but can't is keeping up with the trends. It's harder for old people. It's harder for people older than me. This is gonna be a tough video. They just kind of get set in their way. At a certain point, you want to stop trying those new things. You just get set. You're like,
which is actually a hurdle that I had in mind.
Okay, that's segue right into that. It's a pro and a con to be able to be that upcoming. You can kind of mess up, but then there are people that, like some younger photographers, for what reason, I don't know, I've never met them, but whenever I post something that doesn't get as much likes, I'll hear about it from third hand, like, this person had more likes on this post on the same day, and I'm like, what? What? What are we talking about here? But yeah, I'll put that as a con.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
it's right down the middle.
So we'll talk about that idea that somebody who is set in their way, okay, a hurdle of the idea of older creatives that they, the idiom, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, which is actually wrong. It is wrong. It is. I think one of the things is that people who are older who do seem to not change is because either one, they know it's successful, and being risky is always risky. Like, it's nerve-wracking, it's challenges you, it makes you, explore and discover a little bit of yourself, of the fears. But in our social media world, the problem is you put it out there and people are going to say, well, I like your old stuff. I mean, we got a ton of like musical artists like Pearl Jam and stuff like that have been around for, and it's like that. Well, they don't sound the same, and well, yeah, because they're older.
Yeah.
They have more experience. They have different stuff and so we see it. It's just kind of a fabric that is in there, and I think to a degree, any real creative who really listens to the muse and goes with it and can swallow that fear and stuff, they will be, again, like I will just bring up Chuck D because he's kind of the thing. Like, he is into art right now, and he was at a conference talking about his, like, that's incredible. 64 years old and doing something totally different, but still connected to who he is. If you know anything about Public Enemy's music and their social stances and the things that he stands for, that's what his art is. It's just another expression of that. So, but it is that idea. I do feel it a little bit at the poetry slams because I'm like, I know a couple of them I was by far the oldest individual there.
Not getting any younger.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting any younger. And so it's kind of an interesting negative about being an older creative. Because I do know of things that work well. Photographer, they will. And to a degree, we're all human, okay? And we, if you're just using your example, senior photos, well, they might have to say, because they know it works, it's not worth getting the lash back, because that's another hurdle is connected to this, is that because we are all human and creativity is a part of who we are, you get tired of the hate, of the negativity of that stuff. And so after a while, it can affect your creative muse because you just kind of close in a little bit because it's just like, no, I don't want to deal with that. Okay, and that is just connected to that part.
Yeah, and so there's this. I'm gonna use this analogy. So there's a psychological study about losing, spending versus gaining money, and say you had $100. The feeling of spending $100 is 10 times. The negative effect is 10 times worse than the positive effect of finding $100 like on the ground. And that feels weird because you're like, if I found $100 on the Walmart parking lot, like I'd be thrilled. But the negative effect of that is so much more. So to throw it into like hate and negative feedback, it takes probably 40 compliments about my work to even somewhat offset a negative review or negative feedback towards something. Because I remember almost every negative like feedback I've gotten from clients, it just kind of like sticks with me. One specifically that I won't talk about, but I try to screenshot and save some of that positive stuff for when I am kind of just burnt out of the negativity. But I remember all the negative stuff. I can quote phrase it, all this, all the positive stuff. I don't really. I mean, it's just kind of a blurred mesh of, oh yeah, people like my work most time. So that is an interesting, and appearance shouldn't matter, but we are fast-paced, youthful, whatever buzzword you want to put on it. It's a like subconscious thing of if you're the oldest guy there, it's like,
yeah, what is he gonna like?
Right.
And sometimes I can feel that like they're like shocked because I'm pretty strong poet. I am. I'm working on my delivery and stuff like that, but still, I'm just like, I don't write about how the tulips are growing. I mean, but I'm just like, so yeah. I see that. I see sometimes that reaction, like, did he just say that? That old guy.
I'm trying to be less offensive with this. I'll go a pro. No more saying old head, I guess. Definitely a pro of where I'm at right now is, so I do agree with the can't teach old dogs new trick is a myth. You can learn as old or young as you want. But there is when you are younger, there's so much more to learn, I guess. Like you're at the bottom of the barrel of the knowledge base. And so that helps you stay motivated when you're constantly being stimulated with new things, new ideas, new techniques, new ways to do this. Like I am very, very well versed in Photoshop. I still learn new ways to do things every couple months, every couple dozen projects, and that staves off burnout tenfold. So that's definitely a pro for being where I'm at right now. Is I'm still not even like my business is 3 years old about. I still have a lot to learn just on the business side, on the photo side, all that. Like I still get to experience having my first studio or like all that stuff that helps me just kind of keep having a cloud to reach for, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's the other, honestly, old school wise, like I'm still learning. Like I don't think that that factor of stopping learning is totally dependent on age. I think it depends on success. I think people, that all of a sudden some people get success and then they're like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to do this anymore.
I've fallen into that a couple
and it's all areas that happens. But you see it doesn't matter if it's acting, if it's athletes, if it's a CEO of a business, like those people who keep striving to learn, keep progressing forward, and they will produce new things and stuff like that. And I think that mindset the mindset to learn is a key, and we've actually talked about that too, is a key to producing good stuff. But that is the idea is that, oh, if you're old, you can't learn it. It's like, no, I still got lots to learn, or lots a lot of skill set to practice on. So one of the positives is that to a degree, but it's also, kind of comes from Tuesdays with Maury, this idea, and it's a little bit abstract and kind of spiritual in the self. Do you remember reading that book? It was a long time ago.
It might refresh as you explain.
But so him and Mitch are talking. Maury is talking about his dad, and kind of the last time he kind of saw him and the sadness he knew of his dad, and he starts to cry and the loss of. Mitch is like, why is it still so emotional? Because it's now decades later, and he kind of goes, and Maury talks about that. Even though he, at that time, I don't remember how, anyway, that he is actually at the moment, he is all the ages he has been. Those memories, those things are a part of who he is. It's the fabric of who he is. And in the creative world, I think that's true too. I think you gain, and if you still progress forward, but there's sometimes, like, I write a poem, and I'm all like, dang, that is college energy. That is what I would have written in college. Now, what I wrote in college, I did not have the skill set to write some of the other things that I write now. I wasn't there. I didn't know. I didn't understand some of those things. And so, or have learned how to deliver them well and with a mic or something like that. So I can tap into, to a degree, any of my years, of my experiences, and create something from it. Now, it's a little bit different. I see things a little bit differently now and stuff, but I have a wealth of emotions and experiences and thoughts and stuff that I can draw upon to create almost any kind of new expression of those. So gaining years or experience, it could just also be experience, to that gives you a deeper well to draw from your creative stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's somewhat the main point of why I travel is to just have more experiences, more places I can tap into those through my work back home of, oh, I really liked how I framed this cactus or whatever over on like how the light hit it, all this stuff, to get that well of stuff that I can then go back and tap into later in my creative work, whatever.
Yeah, because so it is years, but it's also experiences, because you can waste a lot of time and not do anything.
Yeah.
And then you don't have any, you don't quite have the depth for that there,
Yeah.
So yeah, traveling like that, and even when you got to do summer ball and stuff, like there's a lot of things to experience that you could.
Yeah, plenty.
Yeah,
Chicago. Okay, so I'll go to kind of a con. Kind of wraps to my first one, but a little different. Being young, and part of this is because my business is still young as well. Not being kind of having to prove yourself over and over, because obviously I have repeat clients and I have new clients, and those new clients it's the prove it mentality where you have to show them before they really believe in you, kind of like the up and coming thing. Just because it's just me with this business, there are some people that really don't take me seriously at all, and I'm starting to branch out into bigger, longer projects that take a lot more work and are usually done by 2, 3, maybe 4 people, and I'm doing it all myself. And so there are some of those people that believe in me, and then there's others that just I would have to spend a whole buttload of free labor basically just to prove that I can accomplish what I want to do for them or they want me to do. So that can get kind of weary, especially because it's, again, with it's probably 20% repeat clients, 80% new, I would say, maybe a little 75-25, but I'd say probably 50% of those, probably about even, really are very on the fence about working with me. Don't really know. Don't That's why I have a portfolio on my website. But even so, they just don't think this young 21-year-old can accomplish these bigger things. And that's where I've thankful for these longer, bigger projects that pay more, is because I can start leaning into, okay, this person believes in me from the get-go. I'll just work with him. I don't feel like I have to work with everybody now. I can start saying no to those people that I don't want that maybe doubt me, and then if they come back because they see the work for whoever else, that is definitely a con that is especially last year, I think, was a lot of my burnout. It was very tiresome having to try and still prove that when I felt I had a big enough body of work and long enough time, still not very long, but to have that kind of foundation of trust, I guess.
Yeah. Ironically, a little bit, I have a negative that taps into that is the energy level. Okay. Yeah. All right. Just okay. Okay. Honestly, when you're younger, you could kind of burn the candle at both ends a little bit. It doesn't mean you don't crash. I mean, but you've done some good work of taking your breaks and traveling and recharging. And it's due to age. It's due to responsibilities. It's due to a lot of other things. But my energy level at 104, and the joke is always
official. It's official age.
Okay, it's half of what I am. I'm 52. Is different, and I have to spend a little bit more time staying in shape. I take my walks and do a little bit of yoga and stuff. But as compared to you're going to be playing hoops and stuff this afternoon, hey, we've had had that big shift when you guys beat me on the driveway.
The sweat stain on that driveway when he would lay down.
Oh, man. Anyway, but it is. It's a different energy level. And when you have to bring it, it actually takes a little bit more energy to get up the energy to bring it, like for the poetry slams and stuff, or when I need to write. Like, I can't stay up anymore until 2 a.m. just writing anymore. So that's where, to a degree, I've got a lot of notes down, I got a lot of things, and then I bring it when I find the time. But part of that is I'm burning energy being a dad, being a coach right now. It's track season, and so my energy gets burnt a little bit differently.
Very diluted.
Yeah, and I don't have the chance to just take a trip, meaning that I just can't go and get that. I have to slowly fill and so the energy levels are, as you get older, doesn't mean you can't do that. It's being honest. It's harder to bring it all the time. But you've also said, even when you have to burn that energy all the time too, that gets weary on anybody. Like, it just, you just have the luxury still. You're still you still get to chill.
I can relate to it in an nth percent, just based on basically the state event seasons. I have to work up the energy to have the energy.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm go, whatever. I'm fine. Like, senior season's fine. But yeah,
But the winter 5 week winter
5
stretch.
weeks straight, and it's traveling. It's all this, hours in the car, hours editing, having to deal with all these different people and all these different places. You do wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I still have 4 more days. Like, you have to. It's funny to say, but yeah, you do have to work up the energy to have energy to do it. And that taps into some of our previous ones where you have to like deliberately make time for your work. Like, you put the headphones on, nobody's bothering you, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a couple pros and cons each way.
No, I have one more pro.
Okay, go.
I have one more pro, which I think is an honor as you gain experience and stuff, and you're just starting to tap into this too a little bit because your actual experience years start way back sophomore year.
Yep.
But I think one of the pros about experience and age a little bit is that you then have the chance to help younger creatives. Okay. I get the chance. I got 2 library readings and workshops. So I've talked to them and said, hey, let's do an hour workshop. And at one of the libraries, we're going to have an open mic afterwards.
Nice.
With them.
Is that the Bellevue one or where?
No, Bellevue's already done. This is
I didn't
on
know
Western.
If you were doing it going. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the Western Nebraska.
Got to go to Western Nebraska. And so it is actually an honor. I think, because I think that also the benefits of it is you get to reinforce your tool, your skill set, because you have to teach it. All right. Obviously, I'm an educator, and so I kind of but still, it is when you're trying to help somebody else develop their skills. Like, you have to reevaluate and test. Okay, how can I show this? How can I teach this to someone? But it also helps you build a little bit of a creative legacy. And that is just an honor. I think that's respecting your art, respecting the community of creatives, and when you get the chance to do that, however small it is, that's just one of those just life things that makes you feel that there's a more to your creative endeavors than just expressing yourself. Which is a part of what we do, but it's like when you can pass on and help somebody else get to the next level for themselves, and to do those things, it's one of the best positives of getting older, becoming 104.
Yeah, I am kind of starting to get into that space. Like I talked about at breakfast, helping people from kind of their genesis of where I was. And it is funny because the age gap is like 2-3 years most time. There's a couple younger ones at like junior high age about, but they're all pretty similar to me in age. Like I've had coffee with a kid. He's a senior in high school this year a couple times. And he just reached out to me. He's like, hey, I just want to learn. Like, he just wants to be a sponge and absorb all that knowledge and stuff. And it is really cool, and you do feel like you are influencing the community for the better. And I love the legacy part because it just, your art will always be there, but it's kind of that quote, I forget who said it, but people won't remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. It's kind of along those same lines. Like, I'll always remember Jamie Bullhauer for helping me get to where I am with slam poetry or whatever. Getting jittery from all the caffeine. But, yeah, it is a very fulfilling and cool experience to see kind of them grow as you're kind of guiding them and helping them. So yeah, that's pro for me too.
Yeah,
pro for being young as well. Young but experienced. So yeah, that
just enjoy the age that you're at. Experiences it,
Age doesn't really, like we talked about. Age doesn't define how much you can learn.
No, or what you
where
can create.
You can evolve, where you can step into, what you can create, all that stuff. There are pros and cons of being young and old, but you can meld yourself into kind of whatever you want to be. So That was The Creative Moment, Season 6, Episode 2. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can get us. Thanks, as always, for the support. You can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify, wherever, like it, however you follow podcasts or whatever. But yeah, we will see you guys in 2 weeks.